You're not going to put him in there.
No, Ben, I'm not. I'm putting you in there.
Well, yeah.
Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. Star Trek has a collection of antagonists, villains, and overall bad guys. There's Khan, the superhuman tyrant who brought the world and the Enterprise to its knees. There's Gul Dukat, the former dictator turned supervillain, waging spiritual warfare on Bajor and Sisko. And then there's this bitch.
I won't have you disrupting everything this community has worked for, Ben.
Today, it's another day in paradise with the DS9 Season 2 episode Paradise, which finds Sisko and Chief O'Brien stranded in a colony that is anything but. And it's all run by, Alixis. For all the attention Kai Wynn gets for being just awful, Alixis, despite only appearing in one episode, was there long enough to get contempt from everyone who watched her. How bad is she? Well, buckle up.
This is primitive medicine. You can't expect to save her.
May I see you outside, please?
But before I go further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about Star Trek, video games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. And if you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member. Be great to have you aboard. A lone runabout heads out into the depths of space, manned by Commander Benjamin the Emissary Sisko and Chief Miles the hero of Setlik 3 O'Brien. There's interest in setting up colonies around the wormhole, so they're doing planetary surveys. Be careful, Ben. That's how Jake Sisko might have started the Dominion War. Oh good, he's just asking Miles to train Jake in engineering. Whew!
He has to know what it takes to make it in Starfleet.
I'll have him up to his elbows in thorium grease, sir.
But amid the conversation between Starfleet's most badass, they find the perfect spot for a colony. Except there's already one there. Huh, this colony isn't on the record. Human life signs, sure, but no response to their hails. And there also seems to be a low-level duonetic field, which is technobabble for their communications are being blocked.
Let's introduce ourselves to our neighbors.
Why? Clearly these people don't want to be found. They haven't made contact with the outside world. Heck, it almost seems like they're going out of their way to not talk to people. Not to mention that if you go down there and something bad happens, you won't be able to call for help. This is a terrible idea, Ben! See, what did I tell you?
Would you be mine? Would you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?
It turns out that the colony is from a crashed Starfleet ship, the Santa Maria. This is Joseph, the Santa Maria's old engineer. They landed on this planet for ship repairs about 10 years ago because when they got close, the ship started malfunctioning only to land on the planet to realize that nothing worked. No phasers, no tricorders.
Not a single luxury, like Robinson Crusoe, it's primitive as can be.
Including Ben's and Miles' phaser and tricorder. But hey, at least we got to meet the neighbors, right, Ben?
Please won't you be my neighbor?
But the good news is that Ben and Miles have a runabout in orbit, so someone will come looking for them eventually and rescue everyone.
Well, after 10 years, this is our home.
I guess we're Angel wanting this.
You can't rescue a man from a place that he calls his home.
Well, for right now, Ben and Miles are stuck here, so let's go meet the colonists.
After all this time, visitors.
I'm on to you! The colony is run by Alixis, a scientist from the Santa Maria. She and the rest of the crew managed to form a community that lives without technology, and everyone contributes to the survival of the community. And right off the bat, she's taking over the conversation and over-smiling. Seriously, the veins in her neck are popping out! The residents, meanwhile, express interest in the outside world.
A runabout, is that some kind of new Starfleet vessel?
Who won the soccer matches this year?
What are women's fashions like back home now?
Wait, Co?
What about orders?
No orders, Co.
Going from freedom fighter helping Rambo to homesteader. It's a quieter life. Miles wants to get to work right away on taking care of that duonetic field, which will restore everyone's devices so they can get off the planet. But Alixis is rather dismissive of that notion. They've given up hope on that years ago. Must be those marshes over there. No, really, they're blaming the local marshes.
do know that the marshes all around us are filled with astatine deposits. That's the only explanation we have.
But hey, the community has gotten by with no technology, right? Farming, building houses, making clothes. Why bother trying to escape, am I right?
We've had some bitter winters, and we've lost some dear friends.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Ben and Miles stay in the community with the agreement that they'll pitch in and help, which is fair enough. However, Ben gets to reading some of Alixis's writing.
She seems to have something to say on just about everything.
Yeah, that sounds about right for her. What's even weirder is that her books were just left in both Sisko and Miles's rooms. That's totally normal.
She says we have become fat and lazy and dull.
My wife told me something along those lines just last week.
More scenes from the O'Brien marriage, ladies and gentlemen!
What have you been eating since we've been gone?
Alixis's basic philosophy is that despite all the technological advances humans have made over the last couple of centuries, they ultimately lost something of their core identity as human beings, losing touch with their true power. Now, I have thoughts on this. Even today, technology often gets the blame for society's ills. Kids no longer pay attention in class because of their smartphones. People don't go to church anymore because they're so plugged in. People don't talk to each other anymore at restaurants. Social media is just awful. The list goes on. And I really hate that line of thinking. There have always been new technologies, new distractions to keep people from fulfilling their responsibilities. How advanced that technology is irrelevant. Technology is a tool that can be used for good or abused. It's neutral, but it's often used as a scapegoat for bad behavior, rather than putting blame on the individuals themselves for behaving badly, or even correcting that behavior and teaching future generations how to behave. Alixis is basically doing the same thing here. She doesn't like how people have been acting, so clearly it's the tricorder's fault. Miles had begun looking for any salvageable equipment to work with to contact the runabout, but weirdly enough, it's all gone.
What happened to it all?
We threw it away.
You what? Dude, for a community that has to work for everything it has, that's awfully wasteful. Even repurpose the metal, something! Joseph insists that they had to abandon technology and remove every trace of it. He made the transition easier. After all, Alixis was right. She had a new philosophy, and we're all the better for it. Heck, we wouldn't have even survived if it wasn't for Alixis and her new philosophy. That's totally normal. But you know who's having a hard time surviving right now? Meg. See, Meg here got bitten by a native insect that carries a disease that's already killed 3 people, and treating it with fungus hasn't proved effective.
The medical kit and the runabout could probably take care of this in a second.
Good idea, Miles. Let's get...
It would only be a waste of time.
I'm sorry. What? Look, I like solving ailments naturally as much as I can. Heck, if a good cup of tea can fix it, all the better. But use the frickin' kit! This isn't a paper cut or the sniffles. We're talking killer flu here.
Talk like that isn't constructive.
Hey, screw you, lady. Alixis insists that they'll be able to find the right herb or plant in the forest to cure Meg. After all, they cured 17 whole illnesses. And while she's arguing all of this, Meg is dying.
We're doing everything we can for her.
No, we're not.
But you know what's more important than saving a young woman's life? The community. And Alixis won't have Ben disrupting it, so he better stop talking about the rescue party and he'll have to do things their way. And also, you better get rid of that uniform because it gets awfully hot in the fields. Yeah, if you didn't already think that Alixis was basically running a cult, you do now!
No one follows me, they follow their own hearts.
Oh, yeah, totally normal. Meanwhile, on DS9, Kira and Jadzia have noticed that Ben and Miles haven't been responding to their hails, so naturally they're heading off in another runabout to check things out. Meanwhile, Ben and Miles are working in the fields with the other colonists, and Ben's got a bit of a green thumb.
My father was a chef. He grew all his own vegetables.
You know, that kind of explains this scene in Season 7.
It took me 3 months to grow them. Nobody
touches my peppers.
But during all this farmer talk, holy shit. So, this is Alixis's idea of punishment. This guy's crime? Stealing a f***ing candle!
One candle?
This is a family heirloom and I intend to keep it!
You know where I've seen this punishment before? The A-Team! The bad guys put Hannibal in one!
What about my iced tea? Did anybody get my order? Or talk about your lousy service?
I'm sure you've had to discipline members of your crew.
Yeah, they get thrown in an air-conditioned brig and get 3 square meals a day, not get thrown into a hot box!
How are you, Steve?
He's well done, you psychopath!
Stephen will never steal another candle.
So, suffice to say that Ben and Miles want the hell off this planet.
I'm sorry, Alixis doesn't believe in doors.
Of course she doesn't. Too technologically advanced. Even the kind with the hinge. So Cassandra, walks into Ben's room unannounced, sexily reclines, and offers to give him an oil massage? Damn it, Rambo said he'd never forget you, but you forgot Rambo!
Not forget me.
No.
Would you like me to massage you with it?
I don't think so.
Ben realizes that there's probably a very good reason why Cassandra dropped by his room. Only one person could have sent her there.
Did you send her to my room?
Yes.
I think you're contemptible.
You tell her, Ben! Alixis claims that Cassandra was concerned that Ben wasn't happy in the community, and that she could, make things easier for Ben to become a member. The sexy oil massage? That was her idea. Ben points out that Alixis never had much use for technology, and it's awfully convenient that they happen to crash on a planet that coincidentally disabled all the technology they had on board. Alixis still pushes Ben to just accept that he's stuck here and accept their way of life and abandon the idea of ever getting back to DS9.
Look at you, still in your uniform.
Again with the uniform. Hey, Garrick worked hard on those alterations. But because Ben isn't budging, not giving in to the cult mentality, Alixis has to punish Wrong Thing.
Ben will be standing watch tonight.
For all the stuff I said about Jellicoe being spiteful at Troy, he was never this psychotic. The next day, Miles is still figuring out the duonetic field. There's no way it's being generated naturally.
Oh, Ben, will you be able to work your regular shift in the field today?
Hey, screw you, lady! Poor Meg, however, didn't make it. And Alixis, not wanting to let a good tragedy go to waste, uses this solemn moment to publicly shame Miles. Hashtag O'Brien must suffer.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Miles was caught wasting time trying to return to the runabout. Okay, when does this start turning into a hostage situation? Because I'm pretty sure we're already there. Joseph, coming to the aid of a fellow engineer, defends Miles by saying he was just trying to get to the med kit to save Meg. But no, it's these two that are a danger to everyone's lives.
That if we had spent our energy all these years trying to escape, we'd all be dead today.
Alixis? Captain Janeway would like a word with you.
Actually, it might be kind of interesting, roughing it for a while.
Well, someone's gotta go in the box. After all, Miles broke the rules. Ben, because that's the person Alixis has it in for. I mean, because he's Miles' commanding officer.
Hey, you don't mind if I, hang a few pictures in here, do you?
Meanwhile, Kira and Dax track down the runabout. Only it wasn't orbiting the planet, but went to warp. They managed to stop and board it, but they noticed some odd stuff. There was no sign of resistance, no weapons fired, heck, the logs have even been erased. And then the runabout was sent to warp and has evidence that someone was trying to fly it into a star, like someone was trying to destroy it. They're able to track down where the runabout came from and, with it in tow, head over to Alixis' planet of horrors. Meanwhile...
This is painful for me too. I want so much to give you water.
Oh, bullshit! You're trying to force a guy to join your community, which he doesn't want to join. You deprive him of rest when he doesn't comply, you stuff him in a hot box, and then use water to manipulate him into compliance. Just change your clothes, Ben, and you can have the water you need to live.
Once you've changed, you can have this water.
Kinda makes you wonder how many people she's done this to already. How did all those people who died during the winter die exactly?
We've had some bitter winters. We've lost dear friends.
But Alixis doesn't know who she's dealing with because rather than change clothes, Ben stumbles back into the box and puts himself in there in one of Sisko's most badass moments. Well, that does it. Miles is going to get to the bottom of that duonetic field and even convinces Joseph to get knocked out so he can work and not have Joseph broiled.
I owe you one, my friend.
Now, we have to take a moment to appreciate the total badassery that is Miles Edward O'Brien. This man is MacGyver, the A-Team, and Rambo all rolled into one Irish engineer. He makes a compass out of everyday objects to track the source of the duonetic field. He sets up a decoy with his uniform when in pursuit. And he even blends into the background to knock his pursuer unconscious. Miles breaks Ben out of the hotbox with a now working phaser and demands Alixis come outside. He found the device artificially creating the duonetic field. Everything should be working all right now. But upon calling the runabout, Alixis admits that she destroyed it. Except she didn't do a very good job because Dex and Kira found it anyways. And it turns out that she helped invent the device that controls the duonetic field. It was no accident that they were stranded on this planet 10 years ago without their technology. In fact, she chose this planet months before, a completely isolated planet. She had no intention of ever leaving and effectively kidnapped an entire starship crew.
You've been lying to us for 10 years. But perhaps a lie can lead to a more important truth.
Oh, bullshit, Alixis! I know you claim you improved everyone's lives and unlocked their true potential, but you had no right to disrupt their lives and get people killed because you insisted on living without modern medicine. You condemned them all, unwilling victims, to a life of hard labor and a high mortality rate. You, madam, are a piece of
What if it were your son who had been sick? Would you let him die too?
Yes.
Holy, there was a guy that at one point found Alixis hot, did the you-know-what with her, and had a kid. What the hell?
I did it all for the community.
With Kira and Dax in orbit, Alixis is willing to go with Ben to answer for her crimes, and Miles offers to take everyone with them to get him off this hellhole.
This is our home. Whatever Alixis may be guilty of, she did give us our community.
Are you out of your f***ing mind? She kidnapped you! She held you hostage! She turned you all into a cult! She cooked a number of you! Well done! This is clearly Stockholm Syndrome. Get everyone off this planet! They clearly need help! But, no. Only 4 to beam up, as the community goes about their business. And that was Paradise. Don't get me wrong, it's a decent episode, but the ending is so frustrating. Yes, Alixis was taken into custody at the end, but she still kidnapped everyone in the community, and despite everything she's done, they still think well of her. Like, no, there should be a hell of a lot more pissed off people here. I refuse to believe that there wasn't at least one person who wanted to start up some shit after finding out what she did. But this is the analytical section of the video, not the ranting part, so I guess I should try to be intellectual right now. One of the things that Star Trek does is that while it looks to the future and what humanity can become, it never loses sight of the past. It's why you'll find references to Shakespeare, classic literature, even old Hollywood movies in Star Trek. Heck, Picard encourages Wesley to study the past, even if it won't be on the exams at Starfleet Academy.
Open your mind to the past. Art, history, philosophy, and all this may mean something.
In Trek, there was always room for the past and the roots of humanity in the future. That even though humanity would advance, we're still people with a deep, rich history.
You always reach for the future, and your brother for the past.
There should be room for both in this life.
Alixis has that yearning for the past, but she can never take that past into the future, leading her to take drastic measures to achieve that past. Rather than taking the lessons of the past into the future, she outright rejects the march of time, trying to return to a time that no longer exists, ultimately dragging her entire crew with her and forcing them to accept her way of thinking. But even understanding her motives, Alixis' actions are inexcusable, and she doesn't even see anything wrong with what she did. She may be one of the few truly irredeemable characters in all of Star Trek.
I did it all for the community.
So what do you think? How do you rate DS9's Paradise? Do you love it? Do you hate it? How frustrating is it for you? Is Alixis as irredeemable as I say she is, or is there still hope for rehabilitation? And what are some of Trek's most frustrating episodes? Please, leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends. Until next time.
Please won't you be my neighbor?